What is going on, Millennial Morticians? Happy Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of this incredible podcast. I have a special guest with me today. I'm not going to introduce him and let him introduce himself. You guys can get a taste for him. I hope you guys are excited. You're revved up. You're ready to go for this week. I wanted to surprise you guys a little bit as we get closer and closer to NFDA. You guys know how excited I am to be there and be with you all. And I want to give you guys little bits and pieces of just exciting information and exciting guests to have with us. So please welcome my special guest, Justin Keiper. And Justin, if I didn't say your name right, please let me know. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So it's Justin Keiper, but you were close.
Okay.
Everyone calls me Keiper all the time, but anything works, I say all the time. But I really appreciate you having me. I think this platform is great for our generation and the next generation of funeral directors. So a little bit about me. I'm from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, also known as the Christmas City, the Lehigh Valley. People know it as here. But I've been a licensed funeral director for 10 years. And it is really my passion. It's my calling. And I say all the time, I feel like I was truly put on this earth to help people. And that's why I enjoy what I do every day. It's, making that difference, doing anything I can. And at the end of the day, these families remember what you do. They really, really do. And I tell that to new and upcoming, interns or students or other funeral directors that are just starting out. It's hard. I'm not going to say it's hard. It's a lifestyle change, but as long as you stick to it, and the biggest thing is you just got to be yourself. In the beginning, I feel like I was this funeral director that, was like the tie buttoned up, all the time. And my boss, he would always say to me, you just got to be yourself and people will relate to you. And that stuck with me, and I am. And, ever since I started doing that, I've seen my career really just take off, and the connections I've made with the family and with the community are really what make this job, really all that it is for me. So I really appreciate you having me. I appreciate all that you're doing, and, all the other millennial funeral directors out there. I always wish them well, because we're the next generation here. And I think what we're doing can really make a difference and really take funerals and celebrations of life to the next level for these families.
Incredible introduction. Incredible. Yeah, I'm glad to have you, man. Thanks for reaching out to me and just being who you are and in this industry and having that legacy. I mean, 10 years, a lot of people, even after mortuary school, they don't make it that long. They don't last that long. So it's a blessing. Well, let's jump right into it. I'm excited to have you. Just excited. So what's one lesson from serving a family that changed how you live your own personal life?
So I think for me, whenever I sit down with a family, the biggest thing that they talk about, you go kind of through I try not to make it like I'm interviewing them. I try to make it a conversation. And when I'm sitting with families, the one thing these families always bring up are all the little moments throughout life. We all have those big milestones. Big milestone of mine would be being licensed as a funeral director for so long. However, what my family and friends and what I want them to remember about me is the little moments, maybe an inside joke we had, or something that, like, a favorite meal that we always had as like a Sunday dinner with the family or something, anything like that. But those little moments are what people remember. So, as I've, been a funeral director and served these families, I really try to stop, pause, and enjoy those little moments, and when I started out as a funeral director, I put this job and my career first. And I put my family and friends, second. And I just started changing that up, because I'm like, those little moments are what people are going to remember me for, because I see that. And, I sit with these families, and again, they'll say to me, oh yeah, they worked, at this job for 40 years, but you don't have to put that in the obituary. But can you put in that, like, they love this song, or they love to dance around the kitchen, every Sunday morning, or whatever it may be. And I'm like, those little moments are what matter the most. And that's one thing that I've changed in my personal life, is I try to slow down, be present, and enjoy those little moments with my friends and family, or people that mean the most to me.
That is extremely important and so touching. I think in the beginning of my career, I was the same way. Just that was all I could. That was my life.
Yeah.
It's your life. It becomes your life. And so when you're in it every day, and then you're learning it every day, and then you're going back that night, it's just like, whoa, is it always going to be like this? And in the beginning, you just have to. You really do have to keen in so you can stay focused and stay on track and get done. But after that, it starts to ease up off of you a little bit. Not that you don't care as much, but you're just trying to really enjoy your personal life too, because you understand that, life is fragile. You don't know when that time might come for you, or anyone around you at that.
Correct. And I think again, making these families know that you're a person and that you have a life. And with the world we're in today, with social media, with texting and cell phones, it is easy for people to get a hold of you. And so many of the old school funeral directors will always say, like, I don't know why you give out your cell phone number. You shouldn't do that. Let them call the funeral home. And I'm like, honestly, for me, I find it easy. And I tell families when I'm with them, they could text me anytime. I will get back to you. If I don't get back to you right away, I will at some point.
Right.
But like nobody wants to talk on the phone all the time. They want to send like they think of a simple thing, whether it's a song or an extra picture or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
They find it so simple just to text that to you, and they're like, whatever they're comfortable with, I'm comfortable with.
As they
I
say,
say,
whatever floods the funeral home emails, that
yeah, yeah,
the
like
pictures, the songs, the stuff that we know that we can
correct.
fix. Yeah.
And I say all the time, like, I treat every family that I serve as if they were my own and how I would want to be treated. Because I think that's what's the most important part of it. There's some funeral directors, and, we've all known them, we've all met them, that, it is more just business and like a business transaction. But yes, it is a business at the end of the day. However, you're helping people at such a fragile time. And for, I think, younger funeral directors or us millennials that these old school funeral directors call us,
Right.
they were around and they came from that family aspect of the funeral home. So they dealt with somebody with the last name. And when you don't have that last name, it is hard and you do have to prove yourself time after time. But really, if you're yourself and you have a passion for this career, you will go far. And what you do for these families will speak volumes over even anything you can say to them.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
If someone wants to live more fully starting today, what's the first small step that you would recommend for them to do?
Oh, I would say really it's just again, the phone. Pick up the phone. Call whoever you love. For me, I'll say like my friends, my family all the time, I tell them how much I love them, but my friends find it so odd that a lot of times when, I'm with them or something like happy happens or a holiday, whatever it may be, like my friends are right up there with my family, and I'll tell them all the time, I'm like, I'm so thankful for you, or I love you guys, whatever it may be. But I think you never know when your time is up. None of us know, and obviously it's different, if you have an illness or something of that nature, but, you know, pick up the phone, tell that person how much they mean to you. And you don't have to make it weird,
Right.
but like, just, you want people to know that
That you
you're
care.
there. Yeah, you care and you're there for them while they are here. So many families that I sit with, they're like, I wish I could have said this, or, I held this grudge with this person and look now where we're at. And they live with that the rest of their life. So for me, it's pick up the phone, do anything you can to understand that life is fragile and none of us ever know when our time's going to be up. So while you're here, tell those people you love them, spend as much time with them as you can, make time for yourself and take care of yourself, because we, at the end of the day, we're caretakers to these families that we serve. We can't give them the best care if we're not caring for ourselves at the end of the day.
That's incredibly true.
Yeah.
Incredibly true. And as we know, we don't know when. I love how
Right,
you
right.
we don't
Yeah,
know when. And
yeah,
I think when we say these things to people, they just like, yeah, okay. But to us, on a personal level, it's so much deeper than I think people can even see sometimes, because
exactly.
we really, really mean what we
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah.
What daily habit have you added, because our work shows how fragile life is? So what's one thing that you kind of added to your life, knowing that life is just,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think like my biggest thing again is being 10 years into this profession, I've really started to put myself first. And I don't want that to sound selfish or come off like that, but
Yeah.
it is. Again, it goes back to I can't be my best version and care for these families without caring for myself first. So I do things, being with my friends and being with my family, I feel like I'm like on a vacation. You know what I mean? Like I can
Right.
be myself, come out of my shell. I can share, because the work we do can be heavy at time. It can be emotional. And, when you're with these families and you're listening to their stories, we go home at the end of the day and like we have all that, whether it's inside our head, we're carrying it on our heart, whatever it may be.
Yeah, yeah.
And being able to just be yourself and, I don't want to say let loose, but let loose a little bit with your
Right.
friends or family, or
We're
doing things
humans.
that, yeah, like doing things that bring you joy at the end of the day only will help you at the end, and also the families, because you're getting that relaxing time, you're getting that release from work. Everyone does it, but our work, again, it's so fragile in what we do and what we deal with every day, and even sometimes what we see, whether it's a trauma or
Yeah.
any of these instances. But again, I sit with these families and they always say, "Oh, I thought we had more time. I thought, I'd be able to call them again, or do this or do that." And again, you have some families that they know if someone's under hospice care, they know the time's coming, so they have that chance. But I'd probably say more than 60 or 70% of the families don't have that chance,
Right. Right. That's
and
true. And they don't have time to see and say, hey, they're going, or every time most families come, it's just in shock, an
yeah,
apparel shock or
exactly. And
disbelief. Even
yeah,
if the person was sick, that part that we learned in school, that acceptance is just
yeah.
not settled in there yet in their
And
hearts.
like I still remember, like so I got into this line of work with, from when my great grandmother passed away, being at her funeral, I knew I wanted to be a funeral director. It changed me that day. And again, I think of it as a calling. I feel like I was put on this earth to help people. But when my grandmother first went into the nursing home, someone in my family was there all the time. We all went every day. And even the nurses, they're like, you don't see a lot of families that do that. And I'm like, but this is when you want them to know you're there. You want them to, feel the love that you can give, or the care that
Right.
you're giving. And it's like, yeah, they are getting that from the nurses and the staff, but you don't just want to show up at their funeral and be like, oh, I guess I should have went more. I guess I should have done this, or took them flowers, whatever it may be. But it's like the little things are what matter most at the end of the day. Yes, your big milestones are great, your awards or your, accomplishments, or even your degrees. But again, I will say, when I am with these families and, I'm talking about certain things for the obituary, I feel like the least they talk about were their employment and their education, And those are big accomplishments in our lives, but what matters are these little things. Oh, they loved bingo, or they loved,
Right.
watching a sports team, or whatever it may be. And it's like, those are the moments that matter, because those are the memories people hold on to.
Right. Well, that went along with our next question. So you answered that one pretty good in a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
nutshell. What idea from your recent theory post has actually helped a family? If you could give some examples.
Yeah, so I started, I don't know what hit me one day. I was, just on, again, social media. I was on social media, I was on Instagram, and followed this account that, they post a lot of like motivational quotes, and, I'm kind of into a lot of that. But I came across these theories, and they post these different theories, and one of them was the funeral theory. And I really stopped and read it, and a lot of it was basically about, at the end of the day, your funeral is going to depend on the weather. We hear it all the time. People say, oh, it's supposed to rain that day, we shouldn't have the
So
funeral.
true. So true.
It is. It's so true. And it hit me. I'm like, that is so true. And we only know that from being in the moment. But I'm like, people need to know this. And again, it's also more, probably 10 or less people at your funeral are actually going to people that are going to be crying at your funeral. And I'm like, that's so
The
crazy to
other
think.
half is what? Recording, right?
They're recording, or they're, and they might be sharing memories, and they might be sad in
Right.
their own time, but in the moment at your funeral, it's most likely going to be 10 or less that are actually shedding a tear and crying and really showing their emotion. Same thing with the weather. It could be pouring rain the day of your funeral, it could be snowing, whatever the case may be. That will hinder your attendance at your funeral. And I'm like, we worry about so much throughout our lives, and you try to be there for people, or you try to do things that you think are making a difference in other people's lives. And again, you're putting yourself second. Put yourself first. And the people that you care about. I always say, like, as funeral directors, we all know, I think, sometimes that we're going to have a larger funeral because you are this community, you know,
Right. Right.
person. You are known. I don't really care about that. You know, I'd rather have a small funeral with people that are coming because they loved me and they have these memories with me and they want to be there. It's not just someone coming out because
And even
they
wanting
knew
to
who you
see,
were.
and even wanting just to extend our own lives. I mean, I think a lot of funeral directors, they don't take care of themselves. They have health issues,
Yeah, yeah,
in the later early 60s parts, I would say, of their life, most of them, or some kind of ailment. And it's just like that could be avoidable if you can just kind of relax and take care of
yeah.
yourself. Needless to say, they didn't have the equipment and things that we have now that can make it a little bit easier. But just the little things like that, the little self care moments, the going to the gym or going on a walk,
Yes,
even
yeah.
after you might have a hard week, a rough week, and you just need that burn off of energy to let
Mhm.
loose.
Yeah,
Like you
and
just,
there's so many times that I've had that, and even like again through these theory posts that I've been reading. So like I read the theory, and then I kind of do it from the funeral director's perspective, and they're all different ones. Like I just did one that was called the legacy theory, and the 200-year theory, and it's like just think 200 years from now, no one's gonna know who any of us are. You're gone so
so
much now down your family tree and your family lineage. No one's going to know who you are. So while you're here, make it worthwhile. But the privilege theory gave me this whole other aspect where it's like we all are privileged every day, whether you want to think you are or not, because you are living. You are
yeah,
here. You have your health, you have your freedom. So use that to your advantage. Be there for the people, do things that bring you joy, do things that make you happy. And when I started sharing these out, so many people, I really was doing it for other people, but it also gave, families that I serve, a lot of these families, they follow me on social media, whatever the case may be. But they also say, you do, Justin, like go on vacation, take care of yourself,
right, right.
because they know that we
You
all need
become a part of their
breaks.
family in a sort of a
Yeah.
sense. Yeah,
You do for sure. And there are so many people that have said that to me. And they're like, we want you to obviously, again, the only way you can care for us the way you do is to make sure you're taking care of yourself too. And being in that, if that's something that I can tell young funeral directors or up and coming funeral directors, is that. And, even we're close to a mortuary school here in Pennsylvania. So we get a lot of students that want to come and, just shadow or part of like, for some mortuary schools, part of like one of your projects or
right. Your
essays, whatever.
clinicals or something, right?
Yeah, is going to a funeral home, observing a funeral, observing these different, religious aspects, whatever it may be. And these kids come in, and I say to them, I'm like, again, be yourself, but also it is going to be tough in the beginning. And when I first started out, that's how I felt. It was tough, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And there were times where I'd get done at the end of the day and I would just break down because I'm like, I was like, what did I get myself into? I'm like, I thought of this
I
profession
think
like
I think
this.
we've
We've all
all
been there.
shed
Yeah.
those tears at one point and just kind of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
is this for me? I don't think.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
I do remember those. I do. I do. You got rejogged my memory. I do remember those really tough mentally days where I was like, "Whoa! Like what?
yeah,
You're
yeah,
driving in the car. There's no music playing. It's just you and your thoughts." I do remember.
yeah,
I do
yeah.
remember.
And these families, you could have 5 or 6 families that you're serving at a time. In their mind, they're the only ones. And I like that they think that, and I like that they feel comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
that's so true,
And
man.
when I first started out, and I still feel like I'm, green in this profession, I think I still have a long way to go. However, I have over the last 2 years really thought of all of that in the sense of I don't want these families to not feel like they're the only ones. However, you do have to make a fine line with it sometimes. And there's people that are night owls. There's people that are early birds. And like
Right.
I get some people that they'll email me the obituary at 2 in the morning and then text my phone and be like, okay, we just sent it back. Like, please send us the link so we can start sharing it with families. I'm sound asleep, you
Right.
know? And it's
Sleep is
like,
precious. Sleep is precious.
yeah, and like when I'm on call, different story. If I'm on call, I have my phone, I hear the ring, whatever it may be, I'll probably do it.
Right.
But I used to do that 24/7. Now, when I know it's my night not on call, I try to turn my phone off or at least put my phone on vibrate where it's like I am being able to get my rest and get that rejuvenation. And I tell
Right.
families again, you can text me, you can email me. I promise you, I will get back to you no matter what. if it's not right away. And again, if it's something urgent, you can call the funeral home anytime because that on-call director will get it. But that was hard to do because I think being not from a funeral home family, I felt almost more like I had to prove myself.
Right.
Because, people didn't know who I was rather than just, now you're coming into this being a funeral director, you are this kind of community member and people know who you are. And sometimes I think dependent upon the size of your hometown, like mine here, I feel like sometimes I'm under a microscope, especially when I am off and I go out with my friends or go out with family, You
I
run
agree. Yeah, you don't know who you're gonna see or how they're
correct,
gonna. Yeah.
correct. And sometimes, we don't wear a suit 24/7. I'm in a suit probably most of the time, but
Right.
not 24/7. So it's like you'd be out and some of these people are like, "Oh, I'm so surprised to see you here." Or, I'm surprised to see you out doing this or doing that.
Guys, he's telling the absolute truth. He's telling the
Yeah.
absolute. You'll go to certain places, and sometimes you'll kind of discourage yourself from going because you're like, "Ah, I might
Yeah.
see some families I served here, or you just get that kind of like feeling
Exactly.
because people are used to seeing you in such a certain way
Correct.
that
And they're
you,
used to seeing you like this. They're used to seeing you in a suit at the funeral. And the one thing that I think is the hardest for me and has been hard for even my friends is so here in Pennsylvania, in our hometown of Bethlehem, we have the largest free outdoor music festival. Okay. Non gated, it's free. Anybody can come. It's called Music Fest. So when you go to this, everybody in town is there all the time. So, like, I'll be walking with friends and they'll be like, someone will stop me and, they'll be like, "Oh my God, Justin, how are you? Hi." And they're like, "We haven't seen you since our mom's funeral 2 or 3 years ago." And sometimes the people, it brings it back and, they start to cry or have this emotion. And that is still one thing that I struggle with because I'm not just going to walk away from them. I'm going to talk. But again, it's that boundary and it's that fine line of, I'm not working right now and, I am trying to, relax and, enjoy my time with my friends. But I do always make time for those people, especially when you run into them. I'm never going to be a person that like avoids them. Hi, sometimes it is just that hello that means the world to them. But, we're all there enjoying the moment. And that's what I say to families. I'm like, listen, I'm like, you came down here to have fun. You came down here to get food with your family, listen to music, whatever the case may be. So go do that. It was very good to see you, but I don't want to bring that all back all the time.
right,
you know,
exactly.
so, but
Well,
it's to me, I look at the positive side of that, be like, obviously what I did for that person 2 or 3 years ago really has stuck with them. And that's why I'm a funeral director and that's why I do what I do.
Well, Justin, it was so great being able to talk to you today, taking time out of your day. I know you're actively in your funeral home,
Yes, yes,
managing
yes.
it. So please be sure to, before you go, shout out your funeral home, let them know where you're at. And just what do you have to say to the next generation of
Yeah.
funeral directors and involved?
So, so I work for Cantelmi Funeral Homes. We're in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and Fountain Hill, Pennsylvania. So we have two locations. We're still family owned. Again, I've been here 10 years. I enjoy what I do, being this community member. But for that next generation, the biggest thing that I can say is you need to be involved in your community. And it's hard, but find things that give you passion and drive. When I first started out, I started hearing from some of these nonprofit organizations and, join these boards, join the chamber, go to these networking events, whatever you can do. I don't look at it as I'm building business. I look at it more so that I'm just making more of a name for myself, but you're
Right,
also meeting people.
right.
And the main thing for a funeral director is having these people skills. You have to be able to talk to anybody anytime.
As my
And
mom would say, let's sell a will to water. I guess so.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's true. And I still remember back to my first day of mortuary school, our professors went around the room and they're like, tell us why you want to be a funeral director. And this one girl in my class, she said, because I hate people. And like the rest of us were all like looking around, and our professor said, well, you're in the total wrong profession then. And yes, there are sides of it where you don't need to see people. However, we see people and you talk to all different kinds of people, you deal with different dynamics. And, if you're young and starting out, just keep your head up, stick to it, try not to let people get the best of you And it is okay to make that boundary with families, take care of yourself, but get involved. I think that's my biggest thing for me. The where I've got, throughout these past 10 years,
Right.
and especially the last few, is being involved in the community, meeting these people. You kind of have that network outside of the funeral home that helps you become more well known, and then that helps with your respect level too. People are like, oh, well, we know you're with the Heart Association, or you're with the Cancer Society, or you did this campaign. I've done campaigns to raise funds and money for leukemia and the Heart Association and all these different things. But people see that side of you, and then they get to see that you are a real person. You do genuinely care about the work that you're doing. And I think that speaks volumes. But be yourself at the end of the day. Now, I'm not saying sit with families and, go to the extreme or whatever it may be,
Right.
but you be yourself. You can read the room when you're with people. You will know that. But the only way these families can be totally comfortable with you, is if you're comfortable with them. And it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to learn. And the only way you learn that is by doing the work. But you will go far if you do that. And, I'm excited for our next generation of funeral directors. I still feel like us as millennials, we're kind of part of that. And funeral service is changing. It's changing all the time. But there are certain aspects of that old school way that, again, like we talked about, I do like to hold on to that, because there is tradition in that. And these families that we meet with, sometimes it's just they don't know, you know, the old school way. All these people knew. They were like, oh, you call the funeral director that was always at church. It's not like that anymore,
Right.
and these families, they have questions. And again, I make everything a conversation, and that's the most important part, and that's how you'll relate to people. And I never want people to feel like I'm sitting here interviewing them buttoned up. If I don't have a funeral, I'm in a polo some days. And I found that people relate to me so much more because they are comfortable. These families come in, they're not in suits and ties to meet with you. Yes, they're dressed for the day of the funeral, not all the time. But when you meet with them, they're comfortable, and they want you to be comfortable, because that makes them comfortable. And that's what makes you be able to serve them and pull out these little aspects, these little memories, or these little things that people liked. I had a lady one time, she loved like the Lifesaver mints. And they were like, she carried this purse around. All that was in it was Lifesavers. And I'm like, that's so cool to know. They brought her purse in, I put Lifesavers in it, and we had it by the guest book. And it's like every person that walked into this woman's viewing laughed. And I'm like, I love when people can do that and they tell me more. But making them comfortable, they'll open up and they'll tell you all these things about the person that only allows you to better serve them at the end of the day. So
And
that would be my advice. That was a lot, but it truly, again, I have a passion just like you do, Jaden. And I think anything I can help the next generation with, I really would like to.
absolutely. And my dog seems to have agreed with you on a lot of
Yeah.
Well, Justin, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on this
Yeah.
podcast. Thanks for taking your time out of your day to share with us. Definitely have to have you back again, and definitely have to meet you in person sometime
Yeah,
soon.
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it anytime, and anyone can reach out to me anytime, truly. I'm always available. It's sometimes I wish I had someone that was maybe a year or two older, a year or two into the profession when I started out, because they can relate to you more. So truly, feel free, Google the funeral home, send me an email, whatever it may be, because anything I can do to help you, I will.
Thanks, man. Catch you on the
Yeah.
next one. Nice meeting with
Thank
you.
you, Jaden. I appreciate it. Take care.
Well, guys, that's the end of today's incredible special episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, learned a lot from it, and got great information from that special guest. Hopefully, we can have him back for more exciting episodes. As you guys know, I like to end it. This is the Millennial Mortician Podcast, a podcast that engraves. I'm your host, Shaden Folks. Catch you guys on the next one. Love you guys. Stay safe, and I hope you are engaged, you're learning, and you're just being yourself as a funeral director. See you guys.